Good evening. How are you? Getting out late. Spent the day writing a little bit, and or a fair amount actually. and so I've followed what's gone on, at least the headlines. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick of the notion that every day Trump manages to do something, usually offensive, to get our attention. And then we all have this dread, I think, that we have to be exposed to this warlock, this piece of crap. And he has no redeeming features. And he alternates between this obvious antagonistic, hateful, evil being with trying to take on, sorry, the wind's about 9 miles an hour here, although it is 62. He does alternate it with, say, going to the funeral of an officer. But I would think it's so obviously manipulative, as it is for, in my opinion, most politicians, that there's a discount among the rational voters, that's you and I, that how can anybody fall for this? But what people keep failing to appreciate is that his followers are true believers. They don't examine these things. They believe that he is their Messiah and that he would be their president, and that's who they want, and there's nothing that can dissuade them. So 30% of the nation has had his Kool-Aid, and it doesn't appear that anything is going to change them. So the election is about swelling the population who will go vote, and about talking against what he says on a daily basis, and pushing every way possible to have the state trials against him proceed, even if the federal cases don't go forward. And in that mix of cases, I see loose cannon doing nothing. So what we're really talking about is whether Judge Chutkan can get clear of the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court to schedule a trial before Election Day. So the cases that will or could go forward are Bragg in New York, the hush money case, and the RICO case in Georgia with Willis. Now, in the category of Trump doing something outrageous, we have all seen how he's attacked the daughter of the judge on his New York case. And that's upsetting on several levels, because the attack, if you've followed it, is that Trump claims the judge's daughter posted a picture of Trump behind bars, and that shows that the judge's own daughter is prejudiced against Trump. Now, what's wrong with that? Well, first of all, in ordinary cases, what the daughter does not impugn the father. But more than that, it turns out the story is false. His daughter had an account, a social media account, but she stopped it. Somebody renewed it. Somebody put this picture on the air, and then Trump falsely claimed that the judge's daughter did it. So number one are the lies that we have to deal with. But number two, the next thing we have to deal with is the fact that implicit and express in what Trump is doing is putting his safety at risk. It's amazing how these gas guzzlers can ruin nature. There was a couple walking earlier today, and I drove by, and I slow down. I go to the other side of the road. It's not like, well, anyhow. So Trump is on two levels attacking the daughter. One, with false information, no surprise there. But he figures you say it, it gets out there in the ether, and his no brain, no neck, mega nuts will just assume it's true because they're true believers. And that's it. They don't care about issues. They are imprinted, if you will. And the second part is that the implicit and express threat to his daughter compromising her security. So these two things. Now, U.S. Judge Walton, who sits on the bench in D.C., and he's been senior, meaning, well, he's retired, but he's, as I understand, he still hears cases since 2000. Very alert judge, well regarded. And he said, it's very disconcerting to have a judge's family attacked like this. And he thought the judge was right not to make the gag order about the judge himself or his family. But it doesn't have to be in a gag order to be misconduct, to be inciting others to commit acts that are threatening and coercive. And the defense that Trump offers is, I'm just saying this. I'm not responsible for third parties. And most of us say, well, yes, you are, because we have all these data points that show us that, in fact, misconduct follows upon your word giving flight to these assholes to do the things that they do. So, what is the additional aspect of Judge Walton's criticism of where we are? And it is what I've said and others have said who follow these things, that if the law doesn't matter, then you have tyranny. And tyranny is another variation of when I'm quoting Sir Thomas More, if you knock down all the laws, where could you stand in the wind that would blow? And that's what we're dealing with. Now, I hear people sort of say, oh, that's terrible. But where is the judge to say, okay, sucker, spend an evening in Rikers? And I'm not joking. And let a Secret Service detail sit in an adjoining cell. The law has to apply, and to apply dramatically, to this guy who figures, whatever the judges say, I'm immune because I get away with it. I get away with everything. And you or I wouldn't and shouldn't get away with the things he does. But he gets away with it because he is above the law. This entire American chapter of our political history is about the proof that if you do not follow the law and force an accounting of misconduct, step by step, it gets worse. You know, they refer to it as, well, you know the expression that a butterfly flaps its wings on one part of the world and there's a tsunami someplace else. And what it's talking about is the iterations. And some people call it complex math and so forth. But we observe it in a non-scientific way because we see, and we have the chapter and verse where Trump has, if not obliterated, made law not relevant to impulse, to seizing what you want, to the law of the fist and the stick. And that cudgel that Trump holds, no one wants to go up and take a sword and cut it out of his hands and put him in a cell. And that's it. It's that simple. And who failed? Federal courts have failed. Now, I'm not criticizing Chutkan. There are, of course, things she could have done. But the Supreme Court of the United States, with its cult of six, is allowing the destruction of our nation as a democracy, and certainly of the laws that we think are relevant and should be followed. Now, in this same category down in Georgia, Trump wants to appeal, and is appealing, the question of whether or not Willis should have been kicked off the case. Now, that's going nowhere. And to my surprise, the judge certified the question, though it's frivolous. And I bet you, if you or I were involved in some skirmish and raised what we considered a constitutional issue and a judge found it frivolous, we wouldn't get to challenge it unless and until there was a conviction. And that is our problem with the failures of our system. Now, Trump gets these stays, which fold into his plainly transparent strategy of delay at all costs. Of course, it depends on winning the election or overrunning the government in a revolution. And I'm glad that Biden will be in charge of our armed forces, should we get to that point. But politicians have uniformly proven themselves cowardly. And I'm not saying this about Biden because he hasn't acted, but it's a concern. You know, winning the election may not be enough. You may have to flex some muscle to hold on to what the people guaranteed to Biden in the election. Now, unhappy news is, you're all probably familiar with Lou Gossett. Tower of a man, always vigorous, powerful voice, amazing actor who died. I believe he was 87. And you may remember him from Officer and a Gentleman. And he wasn't the lead, but he was awarded prizes as the best supporting actor. And he referred to Officer and a Gentleman as actor and a gentleman. So that's pretty interesting. He was also in Roots. So he had a good life, and it's really sad. Like flapping wings, we see the light flicker and a person disappears, a person of value. And so it's a shame he's gone, and we can only hope that his end was as peaceful as that can be. In the category of strange cases and bad law, corrected, there was a Texas woman who has sued a prosecutor for, I think, $1 million because she went to the hospital and she had given herself a drug and it prompted a miscarriage, and she had to go to the hospital for it. And the hospital then informed the prosecutor. The prosecutor prosecuted her for murder. Ultimately, the DA for that county in Texas got sacked. And there was a question about, what about the confidentiality of her records as a patient, just handing it over to the DA? Just wrong. So we have a lot of things that we could solve if we were rational. And it's scary that a large segment of our population has lost its mind. I mean that. Not thinking, not disciplined, don't care about others. And are faux Christians because they discriminate and hate so much. And we have work to do between now and November. And each of us does what little we can do and hopes those streams, as Bobby Kennedy once said about South Africa, join together in a large torrent that runs over the forces of monarchy and self-fulfillment over democracy and equality before the law. So that's what I got today, and I'm talking to you from my Cathedral of Trees, and with any luck we'll be out here again tomorrow, although they're talking about rain. All the best. Bye-bye.